Hey, moneymakers, welcome back to another episode of Taking Stock live from Mandeville tonight. How is everybody doing? Let me know in the chat or in the comments where you're joining us from. I love to see our moneymakers all over the world, in Jamaica and in Asia, in Africa, around the Caribbean, in Europe, in the United States. All over the place, moneymakers are, and I love to see it. You know, this is the show where we tell you what's going on in business and how it will affect you and your money. Tonight, we are discussing the issue of paid time off, personal time off for your birthday. Should you get a day off for your birthday? I know a lot of you take days off for your birthday, but you know, it's your vacation leave. Should you get like an extra day? Let's talk about it. How does this affect the workplace? But first, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel, and let me know, like I said, in the comments where you're joining us from. Now, here's a look at what's coming up in tonight's show, followed by what's hot in business. And of course, come on, let's get this money.
On this episode of Taking Stock, a workplace benefit to celebrate. Paid day off on your birthday is a growing trend for companies looking to boost staff morale. What are the perks to this unprecedented move? President of the Human Resource Management Association of Jamaica, Dr. Cassida Jones Johnson, joins us live to discuss. And the analysts weigh in on the latest market developments, investment opportunities in the fixed income and global bond market, plus NCB sells stake in Bermuda Bank. We'll discuss.
Here's what's hot, brought to you by JMMB Group, your best interest at heart.
iCreate Edufocal and Equity Line Mortgage Investment resumed trading on the Jamaica Stock Exchange last week. Edufocal and Equity Line were suspended on June 4 for repeated delays in publishing their audited financials for 2023. The reports were more than 90 days overdue. iCreate was suspended at the start of the year. The JSC said all three companies are now in compliance with the stock exchange's rules. Restaurant chain Mothers is partnering with service stations Fesco and Total Energies to expand its retail arm. The move comes as the company officially launched its bakery division recently. They manufacture pastries such as buns, cakes, and donuts. According to Group CEO Sheldon Seymour, the bakery division has been up and running for almost a year and is already contributing over 25% to the group's revenues. The partnership with Fesco and Total will see Mother's bakery items in service stations across the island as they try to build out a network of outlets. Taxi companies Apollo and Compass Taxi are closing their doors. Both companies are owned by the Belize-based Triton Transport. According to a notice posted on social media, the brands combined are being sold for $8.5 million. Interested buyers could also receive radios and vehicles owned by the brands for $13 million. A representative of Apollo Taxi told The Observer that their client base has decreased significantly since ride-sharing companies like Uber, Lyft, and InDrive came into the local market. The news comes just weeks after Transport Minister Darrell Vaz announced a 12-month ban on ride-hailing service apps. The ban, however, was not implemented as telecoms providers Flow and Digicel requested legal proof that the government could make that call. The Bank of England is holding its interest rate at a 16-year high of 5.25%. This is despite inflation falling to the country's target of 2% in May. Interest rates have been held at 5.25 since August last year. Inflation sank to 2% in May, which is the lowest inflation rate in the country since April 2021. Between September 2022 and March 2023, the UK experienced 7 months of double-digit inflation, which peaked at 11.1% in October 2022. Policymakers have warned that a premature cut could trigger another round of price rises.
I see you, waiting for me. You're in my reach, but I have to have a little extra push to get close to you. Are you flirting with me? You want me to come get you, but you won't fall into my lap. You want me to show you that I want you. You want me to be responsible and proactive. Okay, you. I'm coming.
Welcome back. Welcome back. I was a little bit distracted just now. All right. So let me see who is joining us and where they're from. We have some viewers here on Instagram tonight. Let's shout out Anne Henry in London, England. And we got Wiz Hall all the way in Japan. Jamaicans in Japan representing. We also have, who we have? They're on YouTube. Kish, once again in London. You know, Kish is always over there. We got Records in Goshen, St. Elizabeth. We got Dwight from St. Anne's Bay in the house. Sean saying Hakuna Matata. Moneymakers, let's get this money. It means no worries for the rest of your days. USA checking in. That's high quality massage gun. Let me see who else we have. D tuning in from the old capital, Spanish Town. Jackie in Kingston 7. Jermaine all the way in China. Kemoy in New York City. And a lot more people as well. So shout out to all of our viewers tonight. To Scene or to Sean checking in from Ocho Rios. So tonight we are talking about paid time off for your birthday. Should you do it? Should you not do it? Several local companies have been implementing this policy. We have the Jamaica Observer, T-Tech Limited, and Sandals. They've all embraced this concept of celebrating employees' birthday by offering them a paid day off. We actually were supposed to have a guest from T-Tech on this evening, but she is unable to make it. But should this trend stay or go? Here to talk about it is Dr. Cassida Jones Johnson, president of the Human Resource Management Association of Jamaica. Hello, Dr. Johnson.
Kalila. Thank you for having me.
All right, can you just shift a little bit to your, yes, right there.
Okay.
Perfect.
Is that better?
Yes, much better. So let's start with this concept. I guess it's straightforward enough. What is birthday PTO?
Well, it's exactly what you said. It's having that special day off where you celebrate you being on Earth for another year. And as you mentioned, it is new to Jamaica, but not new to the world. There are other parts of the world that have already introduced this concept of a birthday off. But it's your special day.
But is it in addition to your regular day's leave? So it's an extra day of paid leave?
That's correct. So the usual time off that you get is vacation. And in the event that you are not well, you get sick days. Of course, if you're pregnant and you go off on maternity, you have maternity leave. Those are standard ones. And now we have paternity leave. But the additional day for birthday is an extra day to your standard vacation days.
So if you typically get 10 days, it would be 11.
That's correct, yes.
And it can only be redeemed on your birthday. Would it be transferable to, let's say you want to take a 2-week vacation in the summer? Can I transfer that day?
Well, actually, this is where the policy would speak to that. And so it's very important. And you mentioned Sandals, the Observer, and T-Tech. I would anticipate that those companies have special conditions around that, whether you use it or you lose it, or whether you can carry it forward to another birthday. So you have 2 days the following year, or whether you are paid for it even if you don't take it. I think it's very important to have conditions around that, Kalila.
Okay. So have you been able to observe how some of these companies have implemented it so far?
Well, it's fairly new. It's done since this year, so there hasn't been enough runway to see how it will work. But as it relates to other companies, especially, for example, in the UK, you find that the T-Tech startup companies tend to do that, the tech companies rather. They tend to do that, and it's really around a policy. It's very clear-cut. They look at the eligibility, so you would have to be, for example, with the company for a particular period of time before you're eligible for it. You have to make sure that the department is not depleted, because suppose you have 3 people in one department who have a birthday in the same month.
Or on the same day.
Or on the same day. How does that affect the department? So it's very important, again, to look at those conditions. For example, suppose you have a public holiday, or suppose it falls on a weekend. Do you take it the following week or the previous week? Those things are very important to iron out, Kalila.
Yeah, I can imagine lots of logistics to work out.
Lots
Now,
of
you
logistics.
mentioned that this is new to Jamaica, but not new to the world. What are some countries that you're familiar with that do this, that do paid birthday PTO?
The UK, Australia, and some parts of Asia have introduced this particular concept, and mainly because we have a new workforce coming up, Kalila. Looking at you, you look like I would say a millennial, but then you have the Gen Zs and the upcoming alphas. Companies have had to start to introduce this because persons in that age group like time off. Can you imagine, for example, someone calls in sick on their birthday? You're going to have your raised eyebrows, right? Because you know they're not sick. You know, take the birthday off. You didn't anticipate that. You haven't planned for that. So if you anticipate by just saying, look, here's your special day, take it off, we can plan around it, it probably will be better for the company.
So those countries that you listed, is this law there, or it's just something that some companies have taken the initiative to do?
The latter. It's
Okay.
not law anywhere. It's not a legislative action anywhere at all in the world. It's really a discretionary offering that a company gives to its employees for moral boosting and recognizing that special day.
Now, our birthdays like an exceptionally what's the word I'm looking for? Here in Jamaica, people celebrate birthdays a lot. Yeah, I have at least one employee who always takes her birthday off as part of her regular time off. Is this just common in Jamaica that people are just really into celebrating their birthdays compared to other places?
The younger people, the younger ones. You find the older ones, I'm going to put myself in the older group. We work on our birthday. We're used to it. But my children who are Gen Zs, they've already told me that, no, they need that time off to go and celebrate with their friends. So it depends on the generation gap that you're in, the band that you're in. And for me, it's not a big deal, but for others, it could be. Especially if they're milestone birthdays, 25, 30, 40, 50 years old, 60. Those are special days.
They celebrate with friends, but my friends don't have their birthday off. I mean, your birthday, my friends don't have my birthday off, so I can't celebrate with my friends anyway. We have to do something on the weekend or in the evening.
Correct, but you may go to a spa. I've gone. On my birthday, I spend it by myself, and I make sure I do my mani-pedi and my massages, etc. You might want to do that for the day in question, So you can do
I
that.
have some comments here. D says, I just believe my birthday should not be stressful. Okay, fair enough. And adding, so capitalism is not heartless. That's nice. Jermaine in China says, my school here in China doesn't give a paid birthday off, but I get a birthday stipend. That's lovely,
nice.
Jermaine. Good for
Yes.
you. Kamoy says, I have not worked on my birthday since 2010. Good for you too, Kamoy. I saw a couple of other questions as well. There were some people saying, no, they don't believe that it should be done. Jackie said, no day off for birthday. Let's get this money. And then D again says, why should we get birthdays off? Oh, actually, why shouldn't we get birthdays off? We should be working to live, not living to work. But then you had some other people, Kish saying, no, you shouldn't get birthdays off. High Quality also saying no. So this is not a cut and dried issue. Not everybody agrees that there should be birthdays off. What are some of the disadvantages to a policy like this?
When you have something like this, if the company is in financial distress, if there are any way that they need to cut costs, you may have built up this expectation that I get my birthday off and now you have to withdraw it. And that could be demoralizing for persons who have become accustomed to it. So yes, there are pros and cons, and certainly a company has to look at that. For example, if you have a very small company or a small department, you probably can't afford to do that because you can't afford to not have someone in the office because it's a very small team. So it depends on the culture of the organization. It depends on the size of the organization. It depends on the demographics of the organization. whether they're on the younger generation side or an older set of persons. So it all depends on the makeup of the organization.
Are there any alternatives to offering a birthday leave?
Of course. There was something I mentioned in the Observer, I think probably a week or so ago, which we call flexible menu. So you may offer like wellness day, mental day, personal days, and you choose as an employee what you want to do with those days rather than having a birthday off. And the reason for that also is because not everybody celebrates their birthday. Some customs, some denominations don't do that. One denomination that I am sure about are Jehovah's Witnesses. They don't celebrate birthday, they don't celebrate Christmas, Easter, the whole works. So that will not faze them if you go and offer them a birthday off. So it's better to offer the menu option, and then you choose what type of day off you want, which is paid by the company.
I just saw that comment come in just before you made it, actually. Kemoy said, I can see people who are part of faiths who do not celebrate their birthday could be an issue.
Absolutely.
So you could make it up to them in different ways then.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You don't have to call it birthday off. And plus, you don't have to have a birthday leave policy either. You can incorporate menu option days in your time and leave policy or your annual leave policy, whatever title you have for your actual policy. You can make it very fluid rather than being specific about a birthday off policy as well.
Right, because that brings kind of a slippery slope, isn't it? You take your birthday off. Now I might want my anniversary off and other milestones.
Or your daughter's
birthday
exactly,
off.
and your husband's birthday off, and then it creates a hot mess. So companies need to be careful about introducing it and it becoming a standard or a type, like something that persons expect all the time, because it does have its repercussions.
So if there's a company out there that's considering such a policy, do you have any tips for how they might craft it? What do's and don'ts for implementing something like this?
I would recommend that it be a part of your standard leave policy. And then you can actually have it as a discretionary day rather than a mandatory day by the company or something that is a part of terms and conditions of your engagement or your employment contract. Because once it's a part of your contract, you have to get it. So I'd recommend that it's more discretionary than it is something that becomes a part of a company, of an employee's contract. So be very careful about that, because you can't take it back once you make it cast in stone.
And Dee says, I'll take the cash instead of the birthday vacation day. I'm flexible.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. And finally, are you expecting more companies to start doing this, like paid birthday time off, or just being more flexible in general and more generous with personal time off?
I am expecting it, Kalila, because as persons move from company to company, if they had it at one company and they're going to another company that doesn't offer it, they're going to ask for it. This younger generation, they're not shy. They're going to ask you about it, and it's going to sort of encourage or force companies to revisit their menu of time off that they give to their staff. It's a part of attracting and retaining talent, and these young people do not stay very long, Kalila. You're lucky if you get 3 years out of them. So you have to look at a retention strategy as well.
Do we have companies doing mental health days in Jamaica now? I know it's popular in the US.
It's not popular here in Jamaica, but I do have 2 clients that have actually introduced it because they have a very young workforce. And remember, we had COVID, and COVID resulted in quite a number of persons who have had mental health issues. And so it has become a part of their time off.
And that's separate from sick days?
Correct, yes. So
Like
you have your 10 days, you have your 10 days sick, and then you may have 2 mental health days.
Oh, okay. Oren says, help us millennials and Gen Z to get going on the 4-day work week. How do you feel about Thursday being the new Friday? Work take too much out of us. We can retire and dead 2 years after. No. What do you feel about that, Dr.
Well, Kalila, yes, there's more demand for work-life balance. Because we can work remotely now, persons are working much longer hours. So the 4-day work week is something that is becoming very popular because of that. So normally you'd work, you physically go to work and you work 9 to 5. Now, if you're working remotely, as much as you might slip out and drop your daughter to school, etc., you are working way beyond 5 p.m. And so there is going to be burnout, and there is consideration for flexi work, whether it's 4 days or whether it's you probably reduce the hours per day. It all depends. And I agree with that viewer that it's something that we should be looking at. Other countries are doing it. The UK is certainly into a 4-day work week for some companies, especially Europe in general. They're very, very family oriented that way. So they really allow persons to have compressed weeks.
So you make up the time from the extra days. So those 8 hours you would work on a Friday, you spread them out throughout the week. Is that how it
correct.
works?
That's correct.
So you have a longer work day Monday to Thursday, but then you have the Friday, Saturday, Sunday off.
Exactly. So you still do the 40 hours, but it's how you add up the 40 hours. Right. And I did that when I was studying, when I was doing my PhD. My company here in Jamaica actually gave me a 4-day. And I worked long hours and then didn't work on a Friday. So I could be doing some studies.
Did you prefer that over the 5 days?
Yeah, I did, yes. I did.
Oh, but then you were studying as well. So you had other
Yeah, but I got used to it though. I got used to it. And I preferred it, and sometimes I would negotiate for it.
What about task-based work as opposed to a set number of hours? Like if you have these deliverables to meet, as long as you meet them, you're good. I don't really care if you meet them if you take 10 hours to do them or 40 hours to do them. These are the things that you need to get done.
Yes, tech companies tend to do that. In fact, Netflix is popular for that. You can take as much vacation days as you want, providing the output is very tangible. They don't limit you to the 3 weeks or etc. They allow you to take as much time as you want, providing the task is completed with quality.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's another trend that I've been seeing, this unlimited personal time off. And I always wondered, how on earth does that work? How do you get unlimited time off, and how do people not abuse such a policy?
Because you are measured by output. And there are certain software, there's software now that can measure your output. Even here in Jamaica, there is a particular client I have in the media space that even though persons are working from home, they can tell the quality of your work. So go off and spend as much time as you want at the beach. I just want my work.
Question here from Sean. Do you think the hard work, low wage is an aiding problem for the need of more breaks? Also, work these days requires more brain power.
Yes. More breaks are important. And we have to remember, too, that we're seeing an influx of younger people who have ADD and ADHD, attention deficit. So if there's not enough breaks when they're working, it can impact on the quality. So it's very important to have those many breaks. In fact, remember, Kalila, some companies even have sleep pods at the workplace. Mm-hmm. Because they recognize that the brain power is very important, that the brain can get tired, especially today, as you mentioned, because we're always on. We're always on our phones, we're always on a laptop, we're on something. Have you ever been to dinner and you watch a family around a table in a restaurant? Is anybody speaking? They're constantly
Everybody's on their phones.
Exactly, they're constantly on, so the brain power is depleted. And as a result, you need breaks.
I don't mind the idea of sleep pods. I could have used it at a couple of my jobs before, especially people who work on shifts. You work those long hours. You have to be at work at 5 a.m., 4 a.m.
Yeah.
A little nap here and there can do wonders.
That's
Well,
correct.
thank you so much, Dr. Johnson. I really appreciate your input here.
Thank you so much for having me this evening. I appreciate it.
Awesome. All right, so let me take some more comments from our viewers. Jackie says, see, this is a different perspective. Jackie says, I love the attention I get at work on my birthday. That's true. Everybody makes a big deal about you at the office. Dee says, us remote workers tend to work much longer. All that time spent in traffic is used for more productive things like getting work done. Then we have Oren who says, I would do 10 hours Monday to Thursday any day. We need to start a serious discussion on this. I'm off Saturday and Sunday. I go to work Monday morning, still feeling tired and drained. Ain't that the truth? Because Saturday is errands, and then Sunday between cooking Sunday dinner, doing my child's hair. That's all day already. So when do I get time for me? Dee says, we got nap times at kids. Not a bad idea to have it as adults. Jermaine says, public schools in China get 2 hours of sleep time every day, but I work in a private school. But how long is their school day, Jermaine? I feel like their school day is a lot longer than ours. So let's take our poll for tonight. Should be an obvious one. Our poll question for tonight: should employers offer paid birthday leave to employees? You can take this poll on Twitter or on the community tab of YouTube, or you can just drop a comment in the chat. Should employers offer paid birthday leave to employees? A, yes, it will boost morale. B, no, it will lead to lower productivity. C, it can be available as a bonus/reward. D, other. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think in the chat, or you can take our poll there on the community tab of YouTube or over on Twitter. Well, let me ask you a question. Have you signed up for the Money Mission community yet? If not, here is a clip of what you may be missing. I'm going to tell you the same thing that I was telling Charlene. The course in premium called Money Marketing, that is the exact focus of that course. The exact focus of the course was how to convert your followers to paid to buy whatever you're selling. How to make money off of your social media following. That's all components. So the first component is create. And yes, we do focus on video, but if you found that you were getting good traction with blog, then I said, go through with your blog, right? So the first component was create. The second component was grow. So how do you grow that page? You also solved that problem. The third was how do you make money off the page? That was mostly for people who are like in the influencers, who want to be influencers. And then the fifth was how do you turn this into a business? Sorry, the fourth was how do you turn this into a business? So how do you convert all this work that you've done to create, to grow the platform? How do you now convert this into a business and get people to buy from you? All right, so that is Money Mission. Go to moneymissionja.com to sign up. Remember to hit that like button. Up next, we've got your market recap, and the analysts are standing by.
The JC Combined Index lost 8,000 points last week, or almost 3%. 124 stocks traded across the main and junior markets for the week ending Friday, June 21, 2024. 39 made gains, 73 lost value, and 12 stayed the same. 87 million shares changed hands on the Jamaican dollar market, valued at $668 million. Sagicor Select Funds Financial was the week's most traded stock. It took up 12% of market volume with 10 million shares trading. The stock lost 9 cents to open the week at 41 cents. Omni traded the second highest. The stock lost 4 cents to open Monday at $1.06. And the Trans-Jamaican rounded out last week's most traded with 8 million shares changing hands. The stock lost 4 cents to close the week at $3.09. Now let's see who had the biggest gains for the week. iCreate resumed trading last week and was the market's biggest gain, up 46%. ISP Finance Service was the week's second biggest gainer, up 16%. And Blue Power Group was up 15% to close the week at $3.96. On the losing side now, after its suspension was lifted, Edufocal resumed trading last week. The stock lost 22% open Monday at 63 cents, and sterling lost 16% to close the week at $2.01. Over on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, the composite index gained 9 points or 1% last week. JMMB was the most traded stock. The stock gained 3 cents to open Monday at $1.26 TT. Trinidad Cement was the biggest gain of the week. The stock was up 12% to start the week at $2.90 TT. And on the losing side, West Indian Tobacco Company was down 9% to open Monday at $9.10. Over in the US, the Dow Jones was up 2% last week, while the S&P 500 was up almost 1%, and the Nasdaq was mostly flat. Over at the pumps, the price of 87 gas was up 25 cents last week, while 90 was up 50 cents. Meanwhile, regular diesel climbed $3.06 and low sulfur diesel was up $4.50. In foreign exchange, it took an average $156.59 Jamaican to purchase $1 last Friday. That's 11 cents more than the week before. Meanwhile, it took an average $115.14 Jamaican to purchase $1 Canadian. One British pound cost on average $196.49 Jamaican. And you could buy €1 for $170.37 Jamaican on average. Finally, on the crypto markets, Bitcoin prices were down 5% over the past 5 days, trading at $61,653 US on Monday, while Ethereum prices fell 7%, trading at $3,316 US on Monday.
To step up social media marketing for your business, get ready for the Summer Social Splash. Be one of the first 10 companies to sign up and get 60% off our influencer promotion package featuring yours truly. I'll come to your business and highlight your product or service to over 300,000 followers on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn, but only 10 spots are available and it's first come, first serve. So don't wait too long to book this special offer. It's 60% off for the summer. Contact business@moneymediaja.com or call 876-498-6490 today. Let's get this money.
Disclaimer: this is not intended as financial advice. Please consult a licensed financial advisor before making investment decisions.
Welcome back. Welcome back. It's time now for the analysts. I'm joined tonight by Andre Reed, senior trader at JMMB, and David Rose, business writer at the Jamaica Observer. Welcome back, guys. Andre, David, good to have you.
Hi, Cassida.
Hi.
So, Andre, tonight we are starting with you. We're going to be taking a look at investment opportunities in the fixed and global bond market. What is going on there right now? Because everybody's been anticipating rate cuts, but seems they're delayed.
Right. So we've seen where the market has been pricing in rate cuts for as early as March in 2024. That hasn't really materialized, and the market has somewhat adjusted its expectations. I think now most persons are expecting the Fed to actually start making adjustments closer towards the end of the year. A surprise move we had last month, where ECB and Bank of Canada, they actually cut interest rates by 25 basis points. The market is a little bit skeptic about it, especially given that at the last reading, Canada's CPI numbers actually went higher. And I think we can all agree here that the main catalyst that most persons are looking at, especially the central bank, is where CPI numbers actually turn out. Even on the domestic side, you see where in all of the speech that our governors make, they talk a lot about inflation being outside of what the expected parameters are. For us, I believe it's somewhere in the 4% region. In other developed economies, it's a little bit lower, but as it stands now, we are still a little bit higher than what most central banks would like to see. Now, what it means is that while rates remain relatively high, Emerging market debts are likely to continue to remain a little bit pressured. Prices are, inching towards the downside. And we've seen that in our regional bonds down as much as 5% year to date so far. There are some anomalies in between, but on average, most of the regional curves are actually pricing down in terms of price movement, which means that yields are actually higher. Now, we can always talk about, what is, but there are always opportunities inside of this because, when you canvass the market, the expectation is that we are somewhere at the peak, and some are more aggressive to say that it is impossible to price in any rate adjustment towards the upside right now. So if we are there and looking to go south for interest rates, it means that bond prices are being positioned to actually go higher because the relationship is that yields fall, prices go higher, and that's where most persons would pick up the capital gains. Now, what it means is
bond prices are positioned to go higher than they are right now.
Well, if yields are supposed to go lower, then yes, prices would go higher. Because remember, the relationship is that when interest rates go higher, right, bond prices go lower. When interest rates go down, bond prices go up. So the existing bonds are likely to price higher. Now, what it means for some corporates, especially with the prospect of interest rates going lower, is that those persons who've been holding out on the high interest rates regime, they really don't want to be raising capital at these levels. At some point, in the near future, you will start to see those companies actually come into market to raise capital. There are some too who have bonds outstanding who may actually look to call those instruments, assuming that they have a call feature in them, right? And for those who trade a lot of the financial stocks, the lowering of interest rates may mean that net interest margin for those companies might actually start to improve. And then, on the stock side, you might see where, opportunities start to present themselves because those companies are reporting better numbers in the near term. Of course, it's not all a blanket because there are blips that we may see in between because up to last year November, most persons would have been pricing that we would have been getting the rate cuts and prices went up, but some of those cars are actually turning out to be a little bit expensive. But overall, the market is still pricing in that within the near term, especially towards the end of the year, rates are likely to be adjusting towards the downside.
So we have basically between now and the end of the year to take advantage of where rates are now.
It's a relatively safe bet, but what you want to be keeping a close eye on, and the central banks will always say it, especially when you listen to the Fed speech. Those analysts or the governors, sorry, they're always talking about reliant on data driven, and the data they're looking for the most part is inflation. The jobs market is relatively strong. We see changes sometimes that head in the direction, but for the most part it's fairly stable. But on the inflation side, it's not adjusting as sharply or as strongly in the direction that they would prefer.
I have a question from Sean. Wants to know, when rates do get cut, how long would you estimate it would take for the market to react and we begin seeing some changes?
So usually you'll have speculation, and we would have seen that from last year, right? So there would be portfolios that would have positioned in anticipation of, right? And even this conversation is there may be hints that speculation can actually take place. But normally, the smart money acts ahead of the announcements, and you find that sometimes there's a trailing that happens. So even when you look at the yield curve, there's some inversion, meaning that towards the shorter end you can pick up higher yields, and then yields actually start to level off. On a normal circumstance, yield curve kind of slopes up. The reason why we're seeing the inversion right now is because there are buys that are already positioned towards the longer end of the curve in anticipation of rates actually starting to come down. So you will see adjustments start to happen ahead. And then, sometimes, well, at all times, when the action actually takes place, the rest of the market starts to adjust accordingly.
Next question comes from Javon. When can we see the return of USD paying dividend bonds?
USD paying dividend bonds. So it's a tough one because it depends on whether or not I don't want to say regulatory wise we're capped on that, but some companies would prefer to actually continue to raise capital in Jamaican dollars. Why? Because it's cheaper. You're not exposed to the exchange rate movement. So from that perspective alone, you might find that it's a better alternative to raise capital, and it's safer and cheaper, right? On the US side, it's a little bit more difficult. While it becomes attractive, it costs a little bit more in the long term for companies who actually look to raise capital on that side.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Let me hand it over to David now. David, you are taking a look at NCB selling their stake in Bermuda Bank Clarien. What's going on there? Why did they sell?
Well, the sale hasn't officially taken place as yet. It was an announcement that they're planning to sell 30.2% of their stake in Clarien to Cornerstone Financial Holdings Limited. Cornerstone Financial Holdings Limited being the parent company of Barita Investors Limited under the listed company in the JSE. So right now we know that NCB Financial Group, particularly the standalone company, not the consolidated group, the holding company itself, it is a bit of debt that is coming due between this year and next year. So in this context, based on the current economic environment, and Andre have mentioned a while ago in terms of the anticipation of potential rate cuts or no cuts, the reality is that debt still has to be paid. And the relative tightness in different areas of the market, whether it be US dollar or JMB instruments, depending on how that capital is being raised, you're still going to need to pay that debt. So in this case, NCB, has decided to, NCB Financial Group has decided to actually push more towards disposing of some non-core assets to, reduce the leverage position and concentrate back into more of their specialized business in NCBJ and focus a little bit more on Guardian. So that's kind of the perspective, because we also heard that after the financial year back in February, we heard that NCB said they're planning to sell NCB Cayman, which is a Cayman bank that is held directly under NCBJ, which is a commercial banking subsidiary that we all know and love in Jamaica. So that's really what's going on, to this the investments announced, so far in this financial year. When it actually closes, still yet to be determined because it has to go through regulatory approvals, and even then it's likely to close at the end of the financial year rather than just being a random period in time, for example, June 28th.
Is it that they're pressed for cash? Because we do know that their APO, they only raised half of what they wanted to raise. They also have a note out that came out right after the APO, and they extended it for a week. Is it that NCB just is scrambling for cash right now?
So to put it into perspective, right? NCBFG, the holding company, has $36.84 billion worth of debt that was maturing between October 2023 September 2024. $36 billion is the amount of money, is in a sense the amount of money that went at the Trans Jamaica Limited back in January 2020 when money was cheap before COVID. So the debt pile to refinance in any perspective is pretty heavy. And there are a couple of different factors that you have to remember. NCB Financial cannot just say to NCBJ, hey, I'm going to put a bag of money to you as a dividend to pay down my bills. NCBJ has its own regulatory obligations to consider alongside other considerations. And you also have to remember that while JHM might pay dividends, how that differentiates NCBFG's bank account is another question. never getting a full clarity on that perspective, because in Trinidad, getting USD is kind of a tough battle. But yeah, they have a pretty heavy debt bill, for the 2024 financial year, which runs from October 2023 to September 2024, because as I went to Kalila, $36 billion. That's more than 200 million US dollars to repay or refinance it in 1 year. So, it's pretty tough on them from the perspective that APO got about half of what they had intended, and the reality is they announced the sale of the bank in Cayman, but we don't see a person to sell it at, and we don't know what other tools they might to pull out of their hat to try and manage that debt pile that is coming due. What we keep forgetting is that the holding company doesn't operate day-to-day operations. It's really relies on the subsidiaries to pay debt, pay shareholders, and so forth. So that's really how it works in a very simple perspective.
Now, D says NCB is finding the money to pay me my bond that will be due soon. I love it. And adding, wonder how soon they want more money to borrow. Who are they selling to, by the way, for the Clarien deal?
So I mentioned at the beginning of the discussion, they're selling it to Cornerstone Financial Holdings Limited. That's the parent company, Bermuda.
Yes, I did see that. That's Paul Simpson's company. Isn't
Correct.
Michael Lichin Paul Simpson's mentor?
Correct. And Michael Lichin is also the godfather of Paul Simpson's daughter.
Right.
Yeah.
So I see some connection. Has Cornerstone said anything about their intentions for Clarien?
Well, I haven't seen any additional press releases from Cornerstone, so just have to wait and see what they're going to say. Barita's AGM is this Friday, so it's virtual, so person can probably ask some questions, to the Paul Simpson and others if they are willing to give even a basic answer on those developments. But I haven't seen anything else on Cornerstone re the acquisition of Clarien.
Interesting stuff. One to watch for sure. And
just,
once again, if Paul Simpson is watching, I've been inviting you to the show for the longest. We're ready to have you. If anybody knows him personally, send him a message and tell him he has an open invitation to Taking Stock.
One thing I was going to say, Kalila, was that earlier Andre was kind of discussing the whole principle around yields, basically. And just keep it simple, right? When interest rate rising, older existing bonds in value. Why would I buy, let us say, why would I buy a 2018 car that probably has another useful life of 5 years, when I can buy a 2024 car that will give me a useful life of 10 years and with better performance and mileage? So in the inverse scenario, in the sense that when rates start to come down, what happens is that, let us say the car I purchased was a rare collectible, still giving great performance. It's relatively rare. Everybody else who would want it would need to pay a higher price to actually receive it. So in the case of a yield, remember it's basically the interest payments or whatever dividends you have divided by the price. So if the price is going up, the yield comes down. So if more persons are looking to potentially seek to capture some of these higher interest paying instruments, they're going to have to pay more money, which drags on the yield. But in this case, if you're already a holder of some of these instruments at higher rates, it means that you're going to see the capital gains, which you can potentially realize if there's a secondary market, whether OTC or listed. So this is kind of how rates going up or down in turn, impacts your fixed income instruments. With the equities, that is a factor of, different investment attitudes and stances. And one of the key things that come out of low interest rates in particular is that companies should have wanted to come to the market. So they might have deferred their decision to list because they want a higher valuation. So instead of coming to list at, let us say, $10 billion. They can stabilize a year later, if history rates come down from 7% to 5% from the BOJ perspective, the potential could list at probably $12, $13 billion instead, which was better for existing owners. So the reduction in interest rates is something that everybody's going to be looking very carefully at. We have 3 events on Friday. Barita's AGM at 10 o'clock. There's the FATF Grey List update for Jamaica. That's on Friday as well. And we also have the BOJ monetary policy press announcement. So that's when the BOJ announced the decision of the monetary policy committee as well. So Friday, the final business day of the quarter is going to be quite a jam-packed period. Also for equities as well, for those who trade the equities and the quarter their month in perspective.
Absolutely. A lot to keep our eye on. We have a couple of comments. NCB Roswell says, NCB trading at a nice discounted price, $56. I like that. How long will you like it for, the Roswell? And then Sean says, NCBFG is at 56.02. Can you imagine investing from IPO only to gain 200% capital gain and losing it all in 5 years? That's scary.
Well, NCB had its IPO from the 1980s, but I get the perspective that Roswell is kind of pointing out, persons probably would have purchased NCB at $50, $70, call it 2017, 2018, so it goes as high as $200 in 2019, and to come back around to 56 is quite a 180-degree shift, basically. Dividends have returned, but at the same time, very different economic environment. So let us see what happens over the next year when rates potentially abate and persons have a little more, a stronger appetite, I should say, for equities.
And investor confidence in general and investor confidence specifically in NCB.
Well, the team, is doing all these different activities to try and shore up, further confidence by customers and also shareholders. So we should look up potentially for probably the first couple of days in August for the NCB Financial Group investor briefing to see, what the management's plan is, read the debt pile and the post-mortem of their assessment of the APO, which, didn't garner as much as they expected. One additional comment, is in Trinidad, well, at one point in the APO, NCB was trading cheaper in Trinidad than it was in Jamaica. So when Tesla is $2.50 TT, it's bounced back up to $3.10 TT now. So 24% gain in less than a couple of weeks and trading above Jamaican dollar price again, but kind of crazy though still, because in most scenarios, the Trinidad stock price trades above the Jamaican stock price. So it's been
and
a
the
pretty
Jamaican
interesting
stock price and the Jamaican trading price was already below the APO price. So if Jamaica
exactly.
was below APO and then Trinidad was even below Jamaica, wow.
Exactly. So, and the thing is, the APO shares have not been listed as yet. So how do I know that? So if you actually go and check the shares outstanding, go on the JSE's website, go on NCBFG, if you look at the share count today vis-a-vis the share count listed in the Q2 report, you're really just unchanged. So even though the APO is closed from June 3, the shares are yet to be listed at the moment. Likely to be listed by Friday if all goes well, but yeah, those additional shares which are now at a loss have not touched the market as yet. So interesting times in the coming weeks as well.
All right. Thank you so much, David. Thank you, Andre.
You're welcome, Khalila.
We're going to take a quick break and come back with your final comments.
This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, was brought to you by JMMB Group, your best interest at heart.
What do the world's richest people all have in common? I'll give you the top 5 from the Forbes Rich List, and let's see if you can figure it out. Number 1 is Bernard Arnault, founder of LVMH, Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy. Number 2, Elon Musk, co-founder of Tesla and SpaceX. 3 is Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon. 4, Larry Ellison, co-founder of tech giant Oracle.
And number 5 is Warren Buffett, founder of Berkshire Hathaway. So it should be pretty obvious, right? They all founded or co-founded major companies. They're all entrepreneurs. Jeff Bezos famously founded Amazon out of his garage in 1994. Elon Musk has co-founded 6 companies, including Tesla. Warren Buffett is perhaps the world's most famous investor, but he also founded the investment firm Berkshire Hathaway. So without a doubt, entrepreneurship is one of the major keys to wealth creation. For the world's richest man, Bernard Arnault, this also means generational wealth. All 5 of his children work at LVMH. Now, if this is what you envision for yourself, your first step is simply to get started. Bring that business idea to reality with Business Startup Basics. In this Money Mission webinar, corporate attorney and business accelerator Chantal Simpson tells you everything you need to know to set up your business legally. Now, you already missed the live, but the replay is now available. The link is in the description. Let's get this money. Let's look at your final comments. What do we have here? Roswell says, I remember when I just entered the stock market, NCBFG was trading at 200. It was actually a little bit more than 200. It was like 210. This was in, what year would this have been? Just before the pandemic, I think, like 2019. NCB was in the low 200s. Tariq Ali says from 200 to 56, huh? Serious. It's like 25% of its value now. So it's lost 75% of its value in the past few years. Sean wanted to know, what was NCBFG IPO price? I didn't know the IPO was in the 1980s. Let me Google that real quick, see if I can find it. NCB IPO price. I don't know if I'll find it because it was so long ago. I'm sure with some research we can find it. I can't find it that quickly. Google it, Sean. If you find the answer, let us know in the comments. Sean had also wanted to know, can you give any insight into why you believe NCB stock price is getting dumped so much? All of these things, all of these factors, investor confidence, the APO being priced higher than the IPO. I did a whole video about this, I think maybe a week ago. You can check that one out. Let's see. Adrian says, NCB is a generic company and a resilient one. They'll rebound. And remember, the company performance does not necessarily directly correlate with the stock price performance, because it could be that the company is performing well, making last year record profits, record revenues, but the stock price still was not doing what investors typically want it to do. David Gray says near 300. No, it wasn't nearly 300, David. NCB Go member, no. Anyway, no, it wasn't that high. It was 211, 212. I recall the high being. What else we see? So a couple more comments on the paid birthday thing. So Christopher says, might be a Gen Z thing, not typically something I've seen with our millennial team members. Oren says, paid birthdays, that's a bit of a stretch now. I say no. SMH shakes my head. You know, our Taking Stock audience is quite mature. I thought everybody would have said, yes, we want paid birthdays, but I do realize that a lot of you are business owners yourselves. And so you're thinking, I have to give everybody paid birthday off? That can be tough. Adrian says, paid birthdays off should depend on the financial strength or viability of a company. Makes sense, Adrian, that's fair enough. King says companies should give birthday off and switch to the 4-day work week. Depends on what type of company you are. If you don't physically need people to be there every single day, because you have companies, you have businesses that, you know, you have to interact with customers. Your office is open on a Friday. It can't be that everybody's off on Friday and the office is closed, right? So I guess it depends on what type of business it is and what type of role you play in the company. Roswell was commenting to Sean earlier saying, why wait on rate cuts to invest? Waiting for a rate cut is losing money and wealth. Trust me, there's always an opportunity. Whether rates are high, when rates are low, there is always an opportunity to make some money. And that is the point of this show, to show you the money, show you the opportunities, so that we can all get this money together. I want to thank you guys for tuning in yet another week. I appreciate your presence. Thanks to Dr. Jones Johnson, president of the Human Resource Management Association of Jamaica, for joining us. Thanks to our analysts Andre Reed at JMMB and David Rose at The Observer. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share with a friend. Also subscribe to the newsletter at KalilaReynolds.com/newsletter. Turn on the post notifications so that you can see everything when it drops. Oh, last night we had Ask Mike. So if you didn't see Ask Mike, which was the final installment of Ask Mike, make sure you tune in right here on YouTube. Check out our last mentorship session with businessman Michael Lee Chin of NCB fame. One of our mentees asked him what was his best investment, and he said NCB was his best investment. I guess that should be no surprise that he would say that, right? Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Kalila Ray. Remember, I only have one page on each. If you see anybody sending you messages that ain't me, that is a scammer, please report those pages. And I want to encourage you as well to tell a friend about taking stock, because investing is the new sexy. So let's make it cool to talk about money. I'm Kalila Reynolds. See you next time.
Let's get this money.